Well, if this isn't a messy day on Capitol Hill, I don't know what is. Unbelievable story continues to develop as the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, drops all of the text messages from the Signal app as he was inadvertently, mistakenly added to a group chat. Now, he's going to explain why he was added and kind of how this mistake happened and why he decided to release all the text messages. Just yesterday, you had people from the vice president to the director of national intelligence to the head of the CIA all saying, you know what, there was nothing really classified on those text messages. And then he said, well, in that case, do you mind if I share them? And they're like, yeah, well, you know, come on. And so he's like, all right, bet. And so he shares them all. And he only retracted, I think, the name of a CIA agent. So not to expose their identity. But this is a massive failure to be sharing these types of things willy-nilly, as it's said. And of course, now everyone's being caught in a lie. So if you're new here, I'm Dave Neal, host of the Rush Hour podcast. I'm going to share, this is going to be a treasure trove of information coming out. And by the way, this isn't about dunking on one side versus the other. I'm about to dunk on Tulsi. She ran for president from the Democratic Party. And then we're going to dunk on Republicans. Everyone gets dunked on today. She says, I don't recall specific weapon systems being named. And then says, I don't recall specific timing. And then, of course, as the messages were dropped, the weapon systems were being shared. So they're going to sort of play this semantic thing where, well, we weren't talking about classified information. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, as it turns out, the Signal app, I guess, is installed on people's devices. Some will argue, hey, they did this in the previous administration too. The question becomes, are you allowed to talk about classified things in a messaging app? This isn't preparing for Sunday brunch. What it looks like to me is, this is like when a guy gets busted for cheating because his wife caught what he was typing because she got access to his iCloud through the tablet, right? Tale as old as time. So they do a masterful job of asking them questions, specifically Tulsi and others, and get them to pretty much lie under oath or play dumb and then present them with the actual evidence. So here we have a clip from Fox News. Again, this grilling going on all day long. Krishnamurthy, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, presented the receipts. I'll share some of these with you. We've got them all, I believe, right here. So I'll share these receipts. But they are all here. And this is, listen, for the sake of our country, I don't care what side you're on, for the sake of our country, this is not how we should be conducting military operations. Have a listen.
Is at his known location, so should be on time. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. MQ-9s is a weapon system, correct?
They are.
Okay. I think applying the executive order as well as the DoD manual to this fact pattern, we clearly have weapon systems that have been identified. That is classified information.
There it is, folks. Nothing to see here. Case closed, right? Well, let's just see how they try to wiggle out of it.
Now, the reason why it's important...
By the way, look at this. Look at this lady. What a job she has. She gets to hold up the printed out. This is, by the way, this just goes to show how bad government efficiency is, right? When they have to print out. Somebody's making a lot of money at Kinko's printing these out here. But hey, she's doing a good job holding it. She's not getting in the way. She's not making it about her. She's like, I hope no one acknowledges me. And then here we are. But good for her on these, I'm sure when she graduated, poli-sci degree from Cornell University, she didn't think her big break would be holding up the old Signal app text messages. But here we are, right, folks?
That this information not be disclosed is that we don't want the adversaries to know what's about to happen, right, sir?
Well, I would draw a small distinction there. You referenced and asked if that platform, those two platforms are weapon systems. They are, but those terms are used all across the globe in a lot of contexts. So it's really about how they're used in the context of this particular document. I just want to clarify that the use of those...
I understand. Yeah. In this situation, those are operational details.
They are operational details, but again, as you quoted the DoD instruction, it's about operations. So as you further go down into what are the operational details, I think as we had a discussion yesterday, the important aspect, I think all of us are very familiar.
This is classified information. This is classified information. It's a weapon system as well as sequence of strikes, as well as details about the operations. And so I think that just piggybacking off of what some other members have said, using the DOD's manual as well as the executive order in operation today with the Trump administration, this text message is clearly classified information.
Yeah, I just imagine someone's on the golf course just banging out a couple texts. Yeah, fire off the F-18s, and then he just hits a putt or misses a putt. I mean, this is just reckless. And folks, I mean, this is why journalism exists. Journalism exists to expose things that shouldn't be happening. And you might say, yeah, but Dave, they did this previous, all that whataboutism stuff. Sure. But now we know from the inside that this is going on. And again, one of the people that was in the group chat was in the Kremlin, was in Russia. So God knows they say, oh, it's end-to-end encrypted, but obviously the sheer stupidity of user error leads us to believe that this type of messaging shouldn't be trusted. Director of National Intelligence, they call it the old DNI, Tulsi Gabbard backtracks on her previous testimony about knowing confidential military information. So yesterday she testified one way, and today she's switching it up. Now that the journalist, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, didn't want to have to share all the text messages, but they made this so political by saying, no, actually, there was nothing there. It's a hack job. The Atlantic is just, Trump derangement syndrome. And for that reason, he says, you know what? Here's all the text. Just do with it what you want.
Yes, Ranking Member. My answer yesterday was based on my recollection.
Just based on her recollection. And these are the people that say, oh, the government's incompetent. She can't even remember. She can't even recall. She's so busy that she can't even recall what was said as they were, doing missile strikes and bombs. My recollection. I mean, imagine trying to use that with your significant other. Honey, my recollection was that I didn't grab the waitress's ass, but upon information of the Ring camera footage, I guess I did.
A lack thereof on the details that were posted there. I was not, and what was shared today reflects the fact that I was not directly involved with that part of the Signal chat and replied at the end reflecting the effects, the very brief effects that the National Security Advisor had shared.
So there she is saying, hey, I want nothing to do with this, because she knows this is a serious deal. Obviously cable news they're gonna feast off of this, but this is a serious deal. Now, do we think our Department of Justice is gonna be prosecuting people? No, we don't think that's gonna happen, because there's obviously a politicization of the DOJ right now. That would be interesting to see if someone gets fired because of this. I hold my breath.
So it's your testimony that less than 2 weeks ago, you were on a Signal chat that had all of this information about F-18s and MQ-9 Reapers and targets on strike, and you in that 2-week period simply forgot that was there.
We've all been in group chats, my guy. You've ever been in that group chat where people are texting and you're like, I can't catch up. Let me get to the Spark Notes. That's Tulsi. She's just getting to the Spark Notes.
Your testimony?
My testimony is I did not recall the exact details of what was included there.
That was not your testimony. Your testimony was that you were not aware of anything related to weapons packages, targets, and timing.
As the testimony yesterday continued on, there were further questions related to that, where I acknowledged that there was conversation about weapons, and I don't remember the exact wording that I used, but I did not recall the specific details that were included.
We need to get Tulsi some alpha brain so she can work on some memory. All right, here is the Atlantic editor-in-chief revealing the full plan and how he got involved. As we said, one day he was requested by Mike Walls, and then the next 2 days later he was in a Houthi terrorist bombing chat. Boy, life can escalate fast.
I'm sure you've heard, President of the United States called you a sleazebag. Members of his top officials in his administration used similar terminology to describe you and your reporting here. So first, just respond to that, and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, it's kind of rude. First, they invite me to their Signal chat, and then they call me names. That doesn't seem right. And I've seen these. I get it. Mike Waltz is looking for the real killer. The simple truth of the matter is, on March 11th, Mike Waltz sent me a message request on Signal, and I accepted it. That's the entire story. I mean, there's no daring do here. I entirely passively accepted his request to connect on Signal.
And the idea is that a lot of times they'll talk trash about these reporters, and then privately they'll leak them information in hopes that when that reporter covers the story, they'll make this person look okay because they're kind of like, exchanging. They have like a mutually sort of beneficial relationship here.
I'm not going to comment on my relationship with Mike Waltz. He's been saying unserious and unkind things about me. That's okay. But the story is the story.
Yeah.
March 11th, he reached out. March 13th, I'm added to the Houthi PC small group. March 15th, they announced to the small group before the attack occurs that the attack is occurring and what weapons they're using. And then I began the process of writing up what I thought was a story about a massive security breach.
Now, this is wild. I mean, imagine you're like, all right, I'm in some Houthi. What is it? We all get sent some ladies, multi-level marketing. She's trying to sell us some, green tea supplements, and we're stuck in some group. We have to untag ourselves. This happens to all of us. This happens to the best of us, right? They want your, some lady, some overambitious type A personalities trying to sell me your daughter's, Girl Scout cookies. Let her sell her own dang Girl Scout cookies. You're not teaching her values if you're trying to do it there, Trisha. And then, but every once in a while you're in a group chat. We've all been there, and you're like a very tertiary party. No one's requesting you to comment, and you're just eating that popcorn going, oh, this is good. So-and-so cheated on so-and-so with their electrician. Yikes. And then every once in a while you like accidentally hit the like button, and you're like, oh, shoot. You had a big thumbs up. You got to unthumbs up it. So then he turns the TV on, and he sees that an actual bombing took place, and he's like, oh my gosh, this actually really happened. And then he starts screen grabbing everything, and he writes his article. I mean, it's a tale as old as time. Now, as journalists, you never want to be a part of the story, right? You never want that. And of course, immediately when Trump says, I don't even know what happened, but that guy's a sleazebag, it's like, no, we're not going to divert our attention from the real crimes here.
At the highest levels of the United States government. That's the story.
Yeah, it is a massive security breach, although I think the one positive here is that readers can decide for themselves. There is
the one positive here, and this is the purpose of journalism, because it's like we discovered something the government was doing that was wrong and dangerous, and they could have responded by saying, we shouldn't have been on Signal, we won't do it again.
Right.
That would have been an easy way to deal with this.
Yeah, we didn't get that, did we? No, we didn't get that. In fact, Pete Hegseth tried to play the card that this is probably hacked or AI. That's going to be the new thing, right? No, it's all artificial intelligence. None of this is real. And that's of course the purest form of gaslighting. So here we have from today, Tulsi denying the info in the Signal chat was classified, but says it was candid and sensitive. So again, this information coming out, it's going to be, like I said, a treasure trove of hypocrisy.
Well, as far as I understand, she just made big news from anything I've ever heard that the Signal app comes pre-installed on government devices. Yet at the same time, as you referred earlier, NSA had issued a warning about the vulnerabilities of the Signal app, whether it might be on the desktop computer or on a cell phone. I mean, that is new because most of the time when I have my intelligence clients, they have been warned not to use encrypted apps.
Yeah, so, and look, some of the testimony was that government devices, even in the previous administration, came preloaded with these apps. But the truth is this. You can't be using, regardless of what the rules were, you can't be using apps like Snapchat or Signal that will delete your correspondence. You need to be able to audit. Let's say there's some atrocious thing happens, pure hypothetical. Let's say we find out Pete Hegseth is doing a deal with the Russians, again, purely hypothetical, where he's saying, we're going to back off of Ukraine and backdoor, I'm going to need a new yacht. So I'm going to need, $40 million transferred to this account. Let's say that's happening. Now, this is obviously a fantastic example. Well, if it's done in a Signal app and the evidence goes away, you can talk that way. You can have these sorts of conversations that wouldn't be right. Versus if you're doing it in an app where you know your boss is watching, you're more likely to not commit any blatant crimes. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. That's an exaggerated case here. But there needs to be accountability and transparency. And it seems to me if they're going to be conducting all of these conversations through Signal apps, they're trying to do it in a way where there's no paper trail. We need a paper trail. It doesn't mean it's a public paper trail, but it means if the Senate or somebody says, you know what, I want to open up a hearing as to what happened, like a Watergate style thing. We need to be able to go back and look at all of these things to properly know who's doing what's right for the American people and who's not. I mean, this is common sense stuff, right, folks? So here we have a very interesting moment. And this is from PBS. So I'm covering Fox News, MSNBC, PBS. Here we have a real grilling of these folks that were involved. And again, just trying to slide their way out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be happy to take your extra 13 seconds. But I want to go back to what I addressed at the outset. I mean, this was not only sloppy, it not only violated all procedures, but if this information had gotten out, American lives could have been lost. The Houthis had this information, could reposition their defensive systems.
And by the way, they have good defensive systems. You know, they've got the ability to shoot down drones, which I imagine could shoot down airplanes as well. Yeah, this could have been a disaster. The best case scenario is what happened, which is that a journalist became the whistleblower. Now we've got all the text messages. There's a lot that lead up to it, including them, wanting to, blame Joe Biden for his deterrence or his inability to sort of keep the Houthi terrorism group at bay, which is interesting that they're so focused, there's this moment here where they're so focused on trying to make sure that Biden takes the blame. It's like, don't they realize he's no longer in office? Look at this. We would need to stay focused on Biden failed and Iran was funded. How come Pete Hegseth is worried about the public relations aspect? He says, well, nobody knows who the Houthis are, so after we bomb them, we need people to know this is all, we're only going to war because Biden failed. We said we wouldn't be doing any war, and technically it's not a war because Congress didn't approve it, but this war on terrorism has been ongoing for far too long, of course. And regardless of what you think about the actual bombing, that's not the issue. It's just seeing and cracking into the behind the scenes of make sure everybody knows the previous president who lost an election was the one to blame. Like, save that for the PR people. You're seeing this days and moments before you're striking, this terrorist group. So then they get into it. Here it is, team update again. So this blatantly shows Tulsi Gabbard was lying. She says she misremembered. But don't you think you'd recognize if there was launch in all caps? Don't you think you'd recognize more F-18s launched, second strike package? So then they go through all of it. Michael Waltz says building collapse, multiple positive IDs. They say amazing job. JD goes, huh? He says typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy, had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and now it's collapsed. J.D. Vance says, excellent. I don't know. It's icky to me. It's like, look, I get it. The world's complicated, but it's icky to me. And of course, they share prayer emojis, strength emojis, American flag emojis, all while, possibly exposing their nation's secrets. And there it is, the Houthi PC small group. Well, apparently it wasn't small enough. Add group description. No, the only thing that would have been better is if the Atlantic editor-in-chief commented on it like, hey, dudes, I'm a journalist. And just then you could see people go, whoops. And there it is, the different people that are involved, in all of this. So again, we'll show, they got the whole list. Pete Hegseth, this guy Jacob, I don't know who Jacob is. Susie Wiles. Again, and trust me, this is not the only Signal group chat out there. I'm sure every single person is going, oh my God, everybody check your group chats. Oh boy, sorry, I had a stripper in mind, this lady Cinnamon. All right, so it's just like, what the heck is going on? And you know what? This comment section below will really show people's true colors. It really will. Do we care about the country, or do we care about our side of the aisle? Those are the questions we have to ask. All right, if you're new here, I host a podcast